Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 379. Be careful when you make the claim of racism. The other day I was amongst a crowd of people that I know, and somebody made the claim, and I don't know if it was tongue-in-cheek or not, but it was kind of a little annoying to me. This person said, if you vote for Trump, you're a racist, no other possibility. And you better be careful when you make that claim. And so we got into a discussion, which quickly ensued, because I'm tired of people dividing people along the lines of hate. I support Trump, and I don't think I'm a racist at all, but let me give you an example of a person who supports Trump and I know is not a racist. My dear mother, she's a Trump supporter, and when she retired and she moved out to Ohio to be with my grandma, she essentially volunteered with an inner city organization called the Red Rookie Success League, where you work with inner city youth and teach them baseball and help them form into responsible, mature adults. And my mom, for 13 years, sort of ran the organization, and she invited in speakers to help inspire the children to focus and become great people and realize the potentiality of these people. And she went one step further, and she even started a family game night where she would invite in the children and their families and their moms and their dads and their aunts and their uncles and teach them how to play games and have good family time. Here's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady from New York that was volunteering for 13 years to help bring up and elevate inner city youth, primarily black children, and give them a future and potentiality. And so if you want to call my mom a bigot or a racist because she supports Trump, I think the evidence is there's a paucity of evidence, not much at all. And frankly, you're bearing false witness at that point in time. Anybody who dedicates their entire retirement to the betterment of another race because she loves them, it would be hard to call them a bigot. But nonetheless, be careful when you call people bigots because it divides people. And what it does is it's the same thing as when John McCain said something like this. He said, we don't negotiate with terrorists. It's the same thing as calling somebody a terrorist. You label them a name where you can't even negotiate anymore, and therefore they become the enemy. And that's what you do when you call somebody a bigot or a racist, is you make them the enemy. And so there's no way you could possibly make amends unless they change their mind. Well, you don't know where their history's taken them, and you don't know what their perception of the world is. And let me give you an example. I'm a physician. I was on rotation throughout my medical school with an African-American woman, and we were good friends. And I've told this story on Catholic Dad before, but I'll tell it again. And a lot of racism is real, but a lot of racism is also the perception of racism, particularly in the victimatology society that we live in. But let me tell you the story about my friend. We shared patients, common patients together. We helped each other out. We rounded together, and so on and so forth. And we always, talked about cases together. And one day, she rounded on one of my patients, and she was acting kind of annoyed. And I said, "Well, hey, what's going on?" She said, "Oh, nothing. You wouldn't understand." Kind of all doty and pouty. And I said, "No, really, please tell me what is going on. I'm kind of curious. I'm your friend. You could tell me. You could confide in me." She's like, "You wouldn't understand." And so I'm like, "Well, I'm here for you. If you want to speak to me, that's great. And maybe I can help you through whatever's going on." And I walked away, and she said, "You really want to know what's going on?" I said, "Yeah, I kind of do." She said, "Well, your patient, Mr. Blank, when I walked in to round on him, he asked me for a sandwich." And I said, "Well, did you give him a sandwich?" And she said, "No, I didn't give him a sandwich. Why would I give him a sandwich?" I said, "Because he's a sick man and he asked you for a sandwich." And she said, "Do you know why he asked me for a sandwich?" And I said, "Why? Why did he ask you for a sandwich? Maybe he was hungry." She said, "He asked me for a sandwich because I'm a black woman. He thought I was part of the servant help. I was part of the cafeteria crew. He didn't think I was a medical student." I'm like, "That's not true." "No, actually, that's not true." I said, "Wrong. You are wrong, and I know you're wrong." She said, "Well, how do you know I'm wrong?" And I said, "Because every patient that I go, when I go into their room, I always say, hey, I'm Catholic Dad. I'm a third-year medical student. I don't really know too much. I'm kind of learning from you. But because of that, I really appreciate you. And if you ever need anything, please ask. It doesn't matter if it's a sandwich, a soda pop, a trip to the bathroom, if you need help walking across the room, if you want to be rolled over, if you need to be wiped off, you name it, I'm here to help you, and because you're helping me. And so let's help each other and become friends." That's what I tell every one of my patients back in med school. And I don't know how many people took me up on sandwiches and soda pops and everything else, and I really got to know them as people. And she said, "You really do that?" I said, "Yeah, I do that. Why wouldn't you do that?" She's like, "Well, I'm learning to be a doctor. I'm not learning to be a cafeteria crew." And I said, "Listen, you realize what just happened here, by the way. I said to her, you know, if an old black man or a woman asked you for a sandwich, you would have said, yeah, I'll go get you a sandwich. It would have been fine. She said, yeah, I probably would have. And I said to her, well, you see what happened is you denied a hungry man a sandwich because the color of his skin. That's what you did. And he asked you because he thought you were a human being. And so who's the bigot now? Now, here's the deal, right? So, I mean, I don't know where her history was, and she doesn't know where my history was, and she doesn't know where that man's history was. But she felt slighted in some way. Maybe she has a good historical reason to be slighted in some way. But what actually ensued was a black woman denied a hungry, sick white man food because of the color of his skin. And she readily admitted she would have given a black man food if he asked her in the same way, because then it wouldn't have been racist. But who's really racist? And the point being is this: sometimes racism is just mere perception. And much like Donald Trump supporters, right? You have no idea why I support Trump. And I could tell you some reasons. I really like his policies. He's for life. Number two, he's against foreign wars. He wants to bring the troops home. Number three, he's for a nationalistic trade policy with tariffs. I like that kind of stuff. I have yet to find any iota of evidence that he is a bigot or a racist, but all that being said is I'm open to dialogue. Now, so be careful, by the way. Be careful with the claim of racism, because once you make that claim, you are automatically calling the other person the enemy. And once you are the enemy, that's like warlike. You honestly can't have dialogue with the enemy when they're labeled a bigot, unless, of course, they change their mind and come to you. So if you say something like, anybody who votes for Trump is a racist, what you're saying is, I will not have open dialogue with you unless, of course, you don't support Trump anymore. Well, I like Trump, and I'm not going to change my mind for you. I must say that. But all that being said is, don't make that fallacious claim, because you could be wrong. And I can guarantee you, I'm not a racist. I've never had a racist thought in my entire life. I told this story the other day during this conversation, by the way. My grandpa, old Italian guy from New York City, Little Italy, used to come up to me and say, hey kid, come here, I want to tell you something. He did this multiple times when I was a little kid, and he'd say to me, he'd whisper in my ear, he said, don't believe what the world teaches you about black people. They're the most beautiful people on planet Earth. You just got to get to know them. And honestly, I think Grandpa's probably right. I've taken his advice to heart, and as a little kid, I grew up, I became a grown man, and I kind of believe what Grandpa said, and I am not a bigot. So anybody out there who wants to call me a bigot because I'm a white man who's successful and I support Donald Trump, you're wrong, and you're dividing the American people, and you're only leading to breakdown of diplomacy and violence and conflict amongst your fellow countrymen. Good for you. That's a problem. So then you got to ask yourself a question. Who is really the bigot? Well, anyway, this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like or subscribe, get the Mass, and pray the Daily Rosary. God bless you all.